All right. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat sejahtera.
Waalaikumsalam.
Good morning. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the webinar session this morning. My name is Abdul Karim Alias from University of Science Malaysia, Center for Development of Academic Excellence, University of Science Malaysia. So thank you for joining us this morning for our webinar session. Happy Labor Day, before I forget. So everyone supposed to be relaxing at home. Okay, this morning we are very privileged to have a respectful, distinguished speaker, Professor Dr. Rosna Wang Hashim from University Utara Malaysia. Good morning. Assalamualaikum, Prof. Rosna.
Morning. Assalamualaikum. Assalam.
Thank you for accepting my invitation as a speaker this morning. I think it's about time now to talk about other things apart from discussing about the tools, how to in terms of going online. So I think it's about time to talk about students. These are the things that really matter. So the title today is actually about learner engagement. Okay, before I go, or maybe I can go to that now, before I introduce Professor Rosna Hashim. So once again, for those who just joining in, welcome. Thank you for joining us this morning. Right, I will share my screen. So, what do we have this morning? We have this topic, learner empowerment during ERT, emergency remote teaching. I think most of us should know now the acronym ERT stands for emergency remote teaching. So once again, welcome everyone. I think for the past for the past 6 weeks or maybe 8 weeks now, since the MCO, when everyone have to shift teaching from face-to-face to online, we have been talking about how to go online and how to get our content, how to create our content from the face-to-face into online. And there are many webinars where we learn about the new tools, new application, how to create content, how to create student engagement, activities for student engagement, and so on. So the focus mainly on how to go online. I think now is a good time for us to talk about students. The center of our learning design is the students. How do we engage students? How do we empower students? So I think it's a good time. So thank you to Professor Dr. Rosna Wang Hashim for sharing this topic this morning. Before I introduce Prof. Rosna, let me just...
Thank you, Prof. Karim. Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you, Prof. Rosna. Yeah, I'm very happy to have you. I'm sure we can learn a lot of things from you today. By the way, for those who are interested to get a copy of the PowerPoint, feel free to download. So the link is on the screen. So you can just note down or just take a picture of the link. But don't worry, the link is also will be given in the description below the video, because this session will be recorded on YouTube. So you'll find the link below the video in the description if you missed this slide. Yeah. All right. Then, as usual, I like to share some resources with the participants as an appreciation for joining the session. And today, actually, we talk about student empowerment. Maybe I think the professor also will touch on perhaps on student engagement. So if you like to learn more about the aspect of student engagement, you can get this book, Student Engagement Techniques, but this is actually not free. I bought this book actually, but I want to share 2 free books, a very good one, which you can download the PDF from website. One is how to make an attention grabbing e-learning course or online course. This is a wonderful small book, pocket book. In this book, you will find 20 plus ideas for grabbing learners' attention. Download this book. It's a wonderful techniques that you can use to design your learning activities. Another book is by Curtis J. Bong and Elaine Koo. Curtis Bong is a well-known, prominent name in e-learning for a long time. And he's very generous, together with Elaine Koo, very generous to share the whole book, adding some tech variety. Tech variety is actually an acronym, but basically in this book, you will find 100 plus activities for motivating and retaining learners online. Whoa. I think if you go through this book, you will find that, you can pick and choose any learning activities that you can design that would engage the students in your e-learning course and retain their attention. Okay, so those are the things. Right. During this webinar, I would like to invite all the participants here to be an active participant, be an active listener. I'm very selective of which webinar I want to attend, but when I attend the webinar, I am motivated actually to learn. So I will be the active listener. But how to become an active listener? This is my way. I will use a chat box actually to ask questions and to be very critical of the speaker's points. We don't have to agree to all the points. We can share our thoughts. So you can share important points with the participants. When you listen some, important point, when you hear something important, then maybe you can share the points in the chat box. So in that way, we will end up at the end of the session with a lot of points shared by other participants, and we can learn a lot in addition to from the speaker's presentation. So feel free to interact, ask questions, share important points, and share your thought. And we'll learn a lot and benefit a lot from the session today. Right, and now let me introduce, before that, that's the last slide. I love this slide, and I always share in all my presentation, most of my presentation. Don't focus on covering the syllabus, but empower students to uncover it. And that's the key word today, empower and empowerment. But how exactly can we do that? So I hope I can hear something from Prof. Rosna today. Prof?
Hopefully, inshallah.
All right, let me introduce, I think most of you probably know Professor Dr. Rosna Awang Hashim is not alien to most of us if you have been actively follow what's going on in higher education. Professor Rosna is currently head of Cluster of Education and Human Development, Academy of Professors, Malaysia. He's a motivation scientist. Wow, I love this, motivation scientist. An educational psychologist, School of Education and Modern Languages, University Utara, Malaysia, since 1989. So we have a very senior professor here. And he's also
old school,
Okay. Professor Rosna also is master trainer at ACAP from 2013 to 2018, and she has developed together maybe with the teams 3 modules on learner diversity, learning engagement and motivation, and leadership style and characteristics. In terms of the administrative experience, Prof. Rosna is actually former Deputy Vice Chancellor, Academic and International, I guess. Former Dean of School of Education, former Director of UTLC, equivalent to CDA in USM, former Director, I don't know whether former or current, Director of Institute of Child and Adolescent Advancements. And in terms of NGO involvement, also Prof. Rosna, she's very active. current fellow of Academy of Professors Malaysia, Vice Chairman Association of Research Development and Higher Education Policies, and also Vice President Malaysian Psychometrics Association. That is actually only the tips of the iceberg. All right. Without much delay, I would like now to pass this session to Prof. Rosna. Prof. Rosna, once again, thank you very much. And over to you, Prof. You can share your screen now.
Okay, thank you very much, Prof. Karim, for a very kind introduction. Let me share my screen first.
Okay. Okay, the screen is coming up.
Let me see.
Okay.
Okay, be patient with me because I'm new in this, online kind of thing. Feel a little bit awkward talking to my desktop today. Okay, Assalamualaikum. Good morning, everyone. Prof. Karim, thank you very much for the kind invitation and opportunity to tango with you in this live session. Actually, anyone would be privileged to be invited by Prof. Karim, actually. He's the icon in Malaysia, especially on e-learning. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming here today. I'm trying to imagine the audience in front of me because I'm not so used talking to a machine here. But the title today is Learner Empowerment. I think over the last few weeks, I think we've been bombarded with lots of online sessions. I think I myself have attended at least, 15 or 16 online training sessions to prepare myself for the new mode of teaching. I think a couple of weeks ago, Prof. Izzah mentioned about pedagogy, right? I'm one of them too, actually. Not, I think, used to sort of remote learning like this with our students, especially in my case, I teach a small class postgraduate, and they prefer a lot of more face-to-face. But anyway, that's life today. We have to accept the fact, the new normal, the ERT. By the way, a friend of mine called me, is it economy rumah tangga, homes economics, ERT? Because, well, those who went to school in the 70s, 80s, ERT means economy rumah tangga, right? Or home economics. But today, ERT is emerging remote teaching. I think, what is it? Before we go on to the next slide, you need to understand what do you mean by ERT actually. Prof mentioned many times in your presentation before, it's a temporary shift of instructional delivery. It's an alternate mode of delivery actually, especially during crisis. So when we say temporary, sometimes it's not by design actually, it's by chance that we have to stumble upon this experience and becoming a learner ourselves again through experiential learning, redesigning our curriculum, our syllabus, and then try to relearn, unlearn new stuff doing online, I think. Although I think many generation or many young lecturers will be more familiar, comfortable. But I think people like me, those who have served over 20 years at higher education, I think we'll find it a little bit tricky, and it takes a lot of passion and also courage to really begin our ERT. Again, like I mentioned, it's a temporarily. So to me, I told myself not to worry. We are not preparing a perfect curriculum or perfect instruction for our student, but at least that is the best instructional mode that we can provide at the current time, especially during this pandemic. And I think we imagine it's going to be until what, December, at least, I think. At least in my university, in University Utara, Malaysia, we have started our classes last week, actually, on the 28th, right? So most, I think half of the institution in higher education have started their semester, has resumed the semester, actually. So I think this is the right time for us to focus on the learner, because the last few weeks, like you mentioned, we've been talking about curriculum redesigning, material uploading, doing remote learning, alternative assessment, etc., etc. So before I begin, I'd like to share my 4 basic premises for my presentation today. Well, I believe that teachers, I use teachers here to refer to school teachers, or cikgu or guru or lecturers in higher education. We are the key to education transformation. And professional learning also vital for education transformation. Like today, what we're doing is part of our CPD or professional learning development. And we also believe that effective and meaningful professional learning can transform student outcomes. That is our aim. We are here today with the hope to improve our instructional design so that we can produce a better learning outcome, a more impactful learning outcome, which eventually can produce an economic impact to the nation. And finally, this is my own observation. I think knowledge about learners and their development in social contexts are often neglected or assumed that teaching is, everybody is a routine job, not something that require expert knowledge to teach. So based on that, I think it's high time for me today to highlight the yellow one, the knowledge of learners actually in the development in social context. The blue one, knowledge of subject matter and curriculum goals. I think that was the first thing that we addressed during the first few weeks during this pandemic, during MCO. And then slowly we moved the knowledge on teaching, and we have attended lots and lots. Prof. Karim has been online almost every day, right, Prof? Almost every day. So I think now after this is the fourth MCO, I think we should now start thinking about our learners. Are they ready? How are they going to face this remote learning for the first time for most of them? So this is what I have in mind actually. Hopefully by end of this session, we can share not only me talking, but hopefully I can get some feedback from participants about answers to this question. What does empowerment mean? Why does it matter? And what does interest matter? Why does interest matter? And how do we empower learners? So these are the four things I hope we can together uncover this during this session. So before we start, what does learning empowerment mean to you? Just a quick sort of mental tweezer, right? So please, I would like to invite all participants to go to menti.com. This is the password, the code for the line, the link. Try to give an answer. What does learning empowerment mean to you? I give you about 1 minute. Then we come back.
Okay. Apa ni? There's only just appear on the YouTube screen.
Oh, okay.
So we give them some time to get the code. Then Prof can stop sharing screen so that I can share the screen from shortly. Yeah. All right. Okay. All right. Give time.
Yeah, you just can scribble anything that first came to your mind.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure before you attend this session, you must have thought of something, right? About empowerment. Yeah, it's coming out.
Yeah, coming up now. I like to use word cloud for this purpose.
Yeah, you can see the frequency, the density of the words. Wow.
You can see the pattern.
The dominant one is independent. The rest are about the same.
But we also have the word empowerment there.
Yeah, yeah. Perhaps it's very difficult to translate because
Yeah.
it's clearly understood. Empowerment is empowerment.
Oh, I can see our TNCA, Prof. Dato Farhan also here. Prof. Dato Aziz Tajuddin also, our former pendaftar.
Oh, now the VC of AIU.
Oh, we have actually Puan Dato Siti Zubaidah also. Puan Zubaidah, also our former apa ni, pendaftar, registrar.
Okay.
All right, Prof. So I think the word cloud is coming up nicely. I think
Yeah.
about
Okay.
60 people.
Right. Thank you. Thank you for contributing to this discussion. You can see, well, independent, responsibility, resourceful, power, focus on student, give opportunity. What else? Responsibility, engagement. Those are the frequently mentioned words by most, about what? Right now we have 67 participants participating in this word cloud.
There's also self-regulated,
yeah,
freedom, resourceful,
autonomy,
yeah,
motivation. Yeah,
that's good.
that's pretty good. That's a good start.
Oh, there's one also on guided freedom.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah.
Self-motivated learner. Self-motivated
Right.
learner.
Well, so I can rest my case now. It's over. Session is over. Okay, thank you very much. Can we go back to the slide now, Prof?
So I will stop sharing.
Okay, thank you very much for sharing.
Then that was a good activity, right?
Yeah. Let me go back to. Okay, this is my slide just now. Okay.
Yeah. All right, carry on. Yeah.
Thank you so much for your participation. Well, they mean almost the same thing, actually. Well, to me, when we talk about empowerment, we're talking about promoting intrinsic motivation among students, meaning that you want them to have the kind of volition, I mean, rela, volition, voluntarily doing things without being pushed, without being conditioned, right? You have to publish what? Your KPI, and then why? Because you would like to get the incentive, or is it, are you publishing for your KPI, or are you publishing for your curiosity to learn more about your area? So that means a lot of two different goals of learners here, or if we refer to ourselves, not, we are also a learner. As a lecturer, for instance, as an academic, why do you write? Why do you publish? Are you being controlled by your KPI? Meaning that you don't have much freedom here. Maybe that's why some people wrote down guided freedom. You have the freedom, but guided. So the same thing for students. You have to think of students. Howard Gardner once mentioned, you learn at your best when you have something you care about and can get pleasure in being engaged in. So there's some words of pleasure and the sense of control. You have the control of choosing what you want to do and how you want to study, for instance. So this has to go back to the term very famous in education. They call it self-regulated learning or self-directed learning, where the student can self-direct themselves, can self-motivate themselves without being monitored or instructed by the lecturers. So can they do the PMR, I call it, not penilaian menengah rendah. Can they plan? Can they monitor? Can they regulate? Are our students ready under this crisis situation, for instance? Are they ready to plan, set the goals for the next few weeks? Are they ready to use strategies to monitor their understanding? And are we ready to strategize and monitor their performance? And finally, are students ready to reflect upon their understanding, whether there's some hiccup, some misunderstanding or misconception about certain things. So being in this context, in this situation where face-to-face is not possible, In same remote learning, there's no face-to-face, but they can be synchronous, right? Like we're doing today, face-to-face in the virtual world. But I can't hardly see the participant, right? I don't know what the participants are doing. Some might be dozing off. So it is very difficult for lecturers to monitor learning, actually, if we are talking about the traditional way. So unless you have the ability to use special tools to monitor student understanding or their participation in the classroom. So this is very important for learners during this ERT to be able to plan, monitor, and regulate their own learning. But let me ask you frankly, how many of our students are really self-regulated learners? How many are ready to plan ahead, set goals for the next few weeks? That is a challenge, actually. That's a challenge. So we are trying to create what we call it learning empowerment for students. What is it actually? We are trying to create intrinsic task motivation, task motivation via impactful elements and tasks that increase students' sense of control. I think, I don't know about others, but to me, controllability is very important in any individual's life. The feeling that I'm in control, bukan queen control, it's not queen control here. I'm in control in the sense that I'm in control of my learning destiny. I know what to do and I know I can do it. I believe I can do it and I know where to find the resources. Those are the sense of control we're talking about in learning. Because some students, I think they're still being unsure due to lack of confidence, due to lack of ability in certain subject matter. So this is a very dangerous thing for students if they feel that they're not in control. And we have some students coming to our class with the first impression, well, Prof, if I can get a B, Alhamdulillah, good enough. I know I can never get an A. That kind of, that is just a symptom of uncontrollable belief about our sort of our ability to move on to the next phase. Well, why do we say, I say we have to really create impactful or tasks that really moving towards intrinsic motivation? Because these two motivation with direct different goals actually. So let's look at the intrinsic one. Let's look at ourselves. Most of the participants today, I believe from higher education, why do we write in the first place? Why do we do research? Why do you bid for project? Now today, I think everybody is so busy waiting for result from the ministry, like about FRGS, TRGS, etc. So why are we doing that? Are we doing it for promotion? For bonus, benefit, winning a prize, winning a gold medal? Or are we doing for enjoyment, our curiosity, or self-fulfilling? It's fun. I want to challenge myself. I've done this before, first step. Now I want to move to the next step. So because all of this mindset, I call it mindset, your learning goals will determine the way we approach the subject matter. If, for instance, I'm not interested in what I'm doing in my research, for instance, I'm just doing it for publication. So my aim is just to get as many publications as possible. Well, I can do that too. But of course, I'm not saying having extrinsic motivation is evil. No, we need both. We need both. The same thing with our students, I think. How can we create learning experience? How can we redesign learning experience so that it can promote more intrinsic motivation? How can we arouse the curiosity? How we can make them like the course so much that they'll keep waiting for our class the next day, just like waiting the soap opera. Oh my God, why does it to finish today now? So I was looking forward to the next session or the next episode, for instance. So those are the kind of things that we as lecturers, I think, have to keep striving, thinking, but promoting intrinsic motivation. what is the keywords? We talk about intrinsic motivation. What is the keywords? Sorry if my talk today is a little bit condescending, because I know that there's a diverse participant today. There are some from psychology department, some from engineering. So the term might be a little bit sort of trivial for some, but can be technical to some. So I go pretty slow. I hope, Prof. Karim, if anything technical, please let me know.
Sure.
Okay. What is the keywords for intrinsic motivation? We can do another Mentimeter, but well, for the luxury of for the sort of time limit, we move to the next one. Actually, one of the keywords, if you ask me, is interest. We seldom study interest in the systematic way. Yet people are talking about interest, minat, always in our culture, tak minat. There's no interest. Because interest to me is the one that gives impetus to self-direct, to initiate something. Well, in our case, now that during ERT, I think most of our, if I can ask participants today, how many of you students coming to your class are very interested in the subject matter? Especially if you are teaching the elective course or the core course. I think the elective, maybe you have participants, students who are very interested to take your course. But for the core course, the compulsory courses, right? Whether are they interested in learning? I myself, I remember during my undergraduate kept saying that, why do I have to take history? Why do I have to take physics, chemistry during my undergraduate? Because, well, American education focuses on liberal arts education, right? We have to take all the sciences, all the, like Texas history. Oh, my friends are listening today. We hate Texas history, Texas politics, all right? We have to take Texas politics. So feeling disconnect. So if the lecturers are not able to connect the subject matter, why do I need to bother about Texas politics? I'm from Malaysia, for instance. So what we can do, there is a theory, we call it situational interest. Sometimes I have experienced this myself. I went to class very uninterested, but because of the environment, the learning experience designed by the lecturer, by the professors, make you very much in tune with the subject matter and put you on what we call a situational interest or temporary. It's a temporary state aroused by specific features of a situation, a task, or an object. By all means, you can be the situational interest, or having a guest in the classroom can be a situational interest. You arouse the curiosity, right? Prof. Karim invited many people in his session just to create situational interest. Of course, he knows everything what I'm going to talk about today. He can present himself, but he decided to invite a guest speaker because you want to create novelty in class sometimes by creating something new. So I would like to introduce to you very quickly a very interesting theory of interest propagated by Hidi and Raniger since 2006. And they have been studying this for over 30 years, actually, maybe more than 4 decades of research. But research has been suppressed during the behaviorism, where they thought that behavior does matter. What is observable is more important. But now with the social constructivism coming back, I think interest to me is very important. I think the role of emotion has been neglected for quite some time. I, for one, think that it is my belief that emotion is very important in learning. Without emotion, things will not sink in very deeply and will not stay longer. So Hidi and Raniger mentioned that there is a 4-phase model of interest. We can begin with phase 1, triggered interest, like what I mentioned just now, is a situational. Maybe student may hate statistics, but with this instructor, oh my God, I love statistics. I myself experienced studying statistics for 6 different courses during my PhD. Oh my God, I was so anxious as a beginner. When I first joined the university in 1995 as a postgraduate, as a PhD student, I was told that I had to take 6 courses in stat and measurement. Oh my God. That was the first impression. Anxious, anxiety level goes up, definitely. But when I first went to the class, when I look at the instructor, how she really manipulate the anxiety into something that is really interesting. Things like, well, she told over this history about the feud between Pearson and Spearman. Pearson and Spearman. Wow, it's interesting. So what she has managed to do is try to put meaning to numbers. It's not simply numbers, but it's people behind it. How did the formula come out like this? What was the feud between Pearson and Spearman? Why was that the feud? Then it helped us develop our conceptual understanding. And for your information, Prof. Karim, I used to teach statistics in education. Well, my PhD experience really taught me a lot, changed my whole life differently. So I came back, I taught statistics in education for master student. Unlike postgraduate, it's very technical, but for postgraduate, it's very much applied. I have to thank my professor, Sidney Blake from USC. I studied under 3 different professors. One is a counselor, one is a mathematician, one is an educational psychologist. And I learned more from counselor. Sorry, the other professor, I learned too, but I learned a lot more from the counselor, from the counseling professor, because the way she translated numbers, really interesting. From that point onwards, I found that statistics is not that difficult. So until one day, I was approached by another professor of mine, Professor Dennis Holsova from USC. He spoke to me, he approached me one day, Rosa, would you like to be my teaching assistant? Oh my God. That is how teachers' expectation can really, push you to your motivation to the next step. Of course, you were flattered, right? Because of the many students, why do you approach me? I don't have even a background in statistics or mathematics. But that's what I'm trying to say is that you can overcome fear like what I have overcome with the right teacher, with the right triggered interest. From that interest, I study a lot. I believe that I can do it. Nothing can stop me now. And when I finished my PhD, I went into structural equation modeling. Among the first, when I came back to UM 1999, very few people were using that. And today it has become, the thing, the in thing now in higher education in Malaysia, at least. So the first step is triggered interest, because this triggered interest can last longer. You don't know what you might have said to your student that can bring them to the next step. That is maintain situational interest. The next step is still temporarily. If you don't reinforce, it will go away, fade away slowly. But in my case, because I have to take more courses, and eventually I was asked to teach, become a teaching assistant for the department. And whenever professors go away, I have to teach. So that built my confidence, and I have to read more, of course. During consultation, I have to prepare myself, reading books, so that I can help others. And helping others is one thing that makes us happy normally. So from this maintained situational interest, I move on to emerging individual interest. So I've become a sort of very quantitative psychologist by then. And slowly when I come back to Malaysia, continuing my teaching at UUM, I can see that I have this well-developed individual interest. So I can see I'm a very quantitative person. And gradually over the years, for the first 10 years, I think I'm very highly quantitative. Only the last 10 years, I've moved to mixed methodology, working with friends from the qualitative aspect. So what I'm trying to say here is that my personal story tell you that even the most difficult topic, subject matter can be overcome with the right approach by the lecturer. So we touch the world actually, becoming an educator. So to summarize, we can have the situational interest. How do you get student attention, get the spark, right? And then agency, get them sustain the situational interest. And finally encourage, now they have the personal interest, start developing their personal interest. And finally, they start challenging their personal interest. So when they have what we call sustain, they are fired up with the sort of the topic. Nobody can stop them now. So that is what we should be doing in the classroom. Sometimes I may not be able to finish the syllabus in my class, but I keep telling my students, I can only share like 10% from what I know about this subject matter, but another 90% is for you to explore. Right? Especially students today, if you are able to get this spark, get their attention, arouse the curiosity, then they can Google instantly without knowing it, right? So this is, to me, is the biggest challenge that we have to overcome, because it's not easy, because we understand individuals are different. What sparked you may not spark me, and vice versa. So we have to keep changing our strategy all the time, depending on the learner diversity or differences among learners. Why interest matters? Because it can influence, like I've told you before, it can influence the quality of learning. I go and search for more books. I buy 10 books in about structural equation modeling, for instance. From the easiest till the most complicated one. Just try to understand from different perspectives. Those days, but today I don't practice much. I ask my PhD student to run it. Now they call it AMOS. I used to use EQS. I used to use syntax program, and now people use window program, AMOS, PLS, many more. But one thing that what I can see that what was happening my time is deep learning. Because when I'm interested, I become a deep learner. And we use syntax file to submit any equation. So we understand every single equation in the structural equation modeling. Why do we have to correlate the error? Why do you have to put the error one-sided, double loops, whatever? Why do you have to control? Those are the deep learning or meaning making, sense making that as a learner, we need to do. We need to have students to be able to do that. But if students are not interested, of course, they can become surface learner. If they have no interest in the methodology, they can always outsource, right? Hire a research assistant, someone paid 2,000, 3,000 ringgit. Please run my model and pray that my model will work and tell me what does it mean. And I'm sure a bigger portion of our PhD students today are doing this, especially, let's say, our undergraduate. How many of you think our undergraduate are still at the surface or deep learning? Meaning that they go beyond our expectation. So that's a challenge. So we hope that interest can also promote mastery learning. You learn for understanding. It's not learn for the sake of exam, learn for the sake of grades only. That is what we call performance goal, right? And then we hope that people also believe, Prof. Karim keep mentioning growth mindset. Yeah, it's very famous. Again, has been studied over 3 or 40 decades by Carol Dweck, right? Talk about growth mindset. Used to be called incremental mindset. The belief that I can do it. Again, I want to share my experience. In my class last time, when I taught statistics, my student normally teachers, school teachers, masters in education. So they come, Prof, I'm a BM teacher. Prof, I'm another one, I'm an ustad, whatever. So please bear with me. Not to worry. I told them, I was trained to be an English teacher. I don't know, I'm not good in stat or mathematics as well, but bear with me. We can do it together. So you have to overcome that. You have to convince them, hey, with effort, we can do a lot more. Let me show you. So normally I will spend like the first 3 weeks just to ensure that they get the conceptual understanding about the terminologies, like standard deviation. Oh my God, I know until today, most people never understood standard deviation. But I determined that my student, you must understand the concept of mean. Of course, they understand standard deviation, right? And what does deviation mean? What variation? What covariation? What variance means? So those are the very basic before you can even go to correlation or regression. So I always share with them my experience as a student, just to stimulate their interest. I had lots more stories about my high school days, whatever. But okay, maybe we don't have enough time, not enough bandwidth today, Prof. Karim.
Yeah, Prof. Rosna.
Yeah.
I just like to interject because you are talking about statistics.
Yeah.
And the growth mindset. When I started my masters in UK, I wanted to really understand the concept of statistics.
Yeah.
So I came across this book. The title is Statistics Without Tears. Statistic Without Tears.
Yeah.
The paperback book. Then I bought that book and I read from page to page, from cover to cover. And that book really changed my understanding, my perception of statistics. So yeah, that's the growth mindset.
Who wrote the book?
Yeah.
Who wrote the book?
The name is something Roundtree. Roundtree. Yeah.
Because normally good writers come from the educational background. Normally good writer in statistics. I like to read books written by educationists.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Prof. Karim. Yeah. We need to convince students, especially when you go, if you're teaching a killer course, whatever, killer lecturer. All right. So our first few, I would try as much as possible during the first few weeks to build confidence, to overcome fear, and to inject interest in the subject matter. Another thing, I'll also share with them the utility of statistics. So most of them are teachers. So I ask them, how many students do you have in your class? Some say 30, 50, maximum 50, I think between 20 to 30. So how do you record your monthly exam, monthly test? Oh, in the record book. I don't know, today things might have changed. I taught many years ago. So I told them, okay, let me show you one tool that can save your life, save your time. So I introduced them to SPSS. So bring your student's name, key in your student's name, and key in your grades. And then let us see, I asked them to compare between classes. Which one is normally, because normally school used to use streamings. Class A, normally the mean is maybe 90, but class C, maybe the mean is 60. So does it mean they are different? And this kind of thing. So I asked them, what does the average means to you? What is, we have one student score perfect score. So those are the outliers, etc. So these are the concept. I bring it to them to make things less complicated and to show them, hey, this thing is important to you. It can help you. It can save your life. It can save your time. So this kind of experience, I think, can help students to move away from fixed mindset, saying that I'm not good in statistics, I'm not good in mathematics. Anything quantitative, I never pass mathematics. Okay, that's why I become a language teacher. Those kind of mindset. The same thing with our students. I know my nieces, one of my nieces always say, oh, I'm not good in reading courses. I can only do quantitative. So they have the fixed mindset. So we know that most learners will come to our class with this kind of perspective. So it's our job to move from this performance goal, fixed mindset, surface learning to move to this. And I strongly believe emotion through interest can help students to do that. And just a quick example, I'm not going to read all. If students are coming to our class with a very performance-oriented, wanting only to get an A for your course, most probably they are very strategic. Intention to succeed or excel in the exam. This is what they're going to do. Okay, get all the information, how to get an A, etc., etc. This is even worse, all right? Just memorize. But what we would love to have is deep learner, intention to understand. Those who keep WhatsApping us, okay, WhatsApp, asking us, what is this, what is that? Intervention during, intervene during our lecture, etc. This is what we like to have. Meaning making, connecting their personal life, looking at whole text to understand the author's intention, not simply about that particular content, but the big picture. They always want to know the big picture, right? This is what we would like to have. So I remember one educator mentioned, to be a great teacher, you must love your subject, love your students, and be utterly determined they shall learn. That has been my philosophy. I love what I'm doing. I think if you're accounting lecturer, you're engineering lecturer, and you hate your subject, my advice: please leave the education sector. Please leave, because when I was teaching my undergraduate those days, I told them, "Do you like teaching? Do you like being in front of crowd? If you don't, I strongly advise you to change your major now, because I don't want you to sort of, a few generation might not be deleted by you. But the history will tell that having uninterested, unmotivated teachers can really kill many generations, kill the interest, many generations. So that is important. So do you translate this passion about learning your subject matter in your classroom?
Prof, Prof. Rosna, when
Yes.
you read the quote by Williams just now, you get a goosebump.
Yes, because we mean it.
Yes.
Because utterly determined, they shall learn. I mean, even though sometimes we know that very poor conceptual understanding, but we have to find ways to determine that they shall learn. Because that is amanah. If you look at our job is an ibadah, then this is our amanah. We have to do it. But we have to translate, we have to excite them with our subject matter, however dry it can be. I know a colleague of mine from School of Quantitative Sciences, Professor Haslinda. She's good at motivating STEM, going to kampong, going to villages, to school, rural area, to send the love message about STEM, especially learning mathematics is fun. So that is the first thing that we need to overcome in this culture. Rather than mathematics is for the Oriental people, and language, English is for the, how to complete that. Those are the stereotypes, images that conjure up in our students' mind because of the socialization processes that is taking place in this country, at least. How do we trigger interest? I'm not going to talk all, but I know you know how to do it. I just want to share very quickly some techniques here. Design instruction that catches and holds students' attention. What can hold student attention in your field? Because we don't know. In my field, when I was trained last time, I was asked to act out. Going to the classroom, if you know those trained to teach English, they're very funny. They can be a clown sometimes. Those are the training. The training train you to be very weird sometimes. You have to go and Malaysians say gila-gila. You have to go to class and become gila-gila. Because you have to excite. Because learning language as a second language or foreign language in Malaysia is very anxiety-provoking activities. So you have to go and cheer up your students. So using novelty, there are many ways using novelty. Like today, bringing guest speaker, novelty. In fact, I think remote learning is novelty for students. I've spoken to some of my colleagues who have started their classes. They say, oh, their students are so excited. They are so happy, eager to see their lecturers after 4 weeks being kept away from face-to-face meeting. So those are novelty for them. But you cannot be doing the same thing over and over again. Maybe after 5 weeks, online learning is no longer novelty to them, unless you introduce some kind of tools, different tools to interact, to do some simulation, some games. And I also read a lot about avoiding multitasking. Well, I think we have this false impression like generation today multitasking. Actually, they're not. Because literature in cognitive sciences mentioned that as much as possible in the classroom, try to avoid multitasking only when necessary, when you want to find information. Because you must have some rules and regulation about bringing in a mobile phone in the classroom, unless it's meant for teaching, meaning how are you going to ensure that students are not focusing on this than you? Because research has shown over and over again, students who are playing with WhatsApp or chat, whatever, while attending a lecture or while doing a group collaboration with their friends, whatever, they may not be able to engage into deep learning. There will be, because we know that how the brain architecture The neurosciences, the neuroscientists and cognitive scientists, they study the architecture of the brain, how we have neurons, how neurons will be connected, and there will be some pushing back and forth. The dendrite will be extended, the synapse will be connected. Without that activities, memory loss, short-term memory will be there. So if they're doing multitasking, then how are you going to do all this connecting the dendrite, the synapse, extending the dendrites? They'll not be able to do that. So that's why they are always advising lecturer to get ready, get student attention, hold their attention, catch their attention before you even start your teaching, so that they really focus on the subject matter today. And second, they were talking about pique students' curiosity about content. Well, providing surprising information where you can create this equilibrium. Oh, headache, pening. What is it? Because that can create arouse the curiosity. One day like today, can you relate to what is going on today? COVID-19. Let's say you are teaching international, international relation, international business. You go into the classroom and say, hey, COVID-19 is a trade war. Is it a trade war or what? Make them students think. Or you can introduce contradiction. Contradiction to what students believe is true, but you come up with lots of contradiction. Or you present some controversies that is going on today. If you're talking political science, for instance, you can create the argument about the formation of government. Is it legal, illegal? I mean, not for political sake, but for experience. They can see, they can start becoming a citizen for the country. They behave, they can solve the problem of the real world. Okay, but within our guiding. That's why I noticed someone jot down now guided instruction, co-construction of knowledge between us and the students within a guided environment. And then we can also stimulate emotional arousal to avoid boredom. Again, I've heard this before, but actually, if some subject matter, some content keep repeating in different courses, right? But the emphasis is different. But being students, being us, sometimes we thought, empowerment again, I know what it means. Okay, so we need to come from a different angle. So I think showing enthusiasm as a lecturer is one. I don't know, people have different school of thoughts. To me, because maybe I'm a very social person, I'm very expressive. So I think I'm very enthusiastic about things and I go to the classroom just to excite students' emotion at the same time and creating a pleasant learning environment, especially during ERT. First, for everyone, our inaugural online ERT with our student, how does it feel? How do you create that pleasant environment? Because everybody's so anxious. Of course, they were saying that Gen Y, these are the millennials, was so used to the technology, but not everyone, not everyone. So how do we cater for the diverse participant in our group that we have to really, by design, this is not by chance. Let's go and try what happened. ERT maybe by chance, you are pushed to move into remote learning, but you can create the learning environment by designing a very impactful impact to the session, because during the synchronous face-to-face session, I think we can have the impact face-to-face, because I know the intonation is important. Whatever the movement is important for students compared to a hard copy. Or even recorded video, also static, there's no interaction. I think face-to-face, I believe, must be there to compensate for the loss in the face-to-face. I mean, synchronous must be there to compensate for the face-to-face in the class. I would like to share with you one thing. We will talk about all this interest. We need, I think most people are very familiar with the inverted U theory, that this Yerke-Dodson graph here. What we need to strive in our classroom is a moderate level of anxiety or a moderate level of challenge. This is where we would like to see. If there's no challenge, if the course is too easy or no challenge, no anxiety at all. Go and okay, go and enjoy. There's no effort. This is the level of, you can see this is the level of effort, low effort and high effort here. Okay. But if your class is too anxiety provoking, too stressful, too difficult, beyond my imagination, I will give up. My effort will be the lowest. The same thing, if it's too boring, too unchallenging, or too challenging, that what is it, Russian? You're talking Russian today? So both will be in a very end, the both continuum is very disastrous. So what our aim, our target is to target for this, a moderate level of challenge. We need a certain level of anxiety. Anxiety is not evil altogether, because that's why some people procrastinate, because there's no anxiety, because they thought they can do it in the last minute. So people, we can only do it when there's pressure. So sometimes people working under pressure can produce the best because of this. Because the way we work, this is human being. The way we work, the way the mind works, if everything at the average level, you are able to motivate students to the most. The effort will be optimum here. This is what we call optimum level of engagement from students. I think this is my last slide. I would like to conclude today with the music model. I love this Professor Brad Jones. I use a lot of his YouTube for my students, because I'm teaching human motivation. This is one, the one model that summarize everything about academic motivation in education, actually. Okay, if we can have, M stands for empowerment, what we need to do here is to ensure that our students can have this feeling: music, empowerment, usefulness, success, interest, and caring. So what we want to have is that when students come to our class, if they have the right interest, if we manage to spark the interest and believe that they can do it, so we have managed to put them in control. We put them in the driver's seat. Now you're ready to drive on your own. Believe they have some control over some aspect of learning. What choice do I have? Sometimes we need to negotiate, to be seen, to be able to negotiate with the students. Normally I will ask my student, okay, we can do this reflection. What would you like to do? How would you like to do your reflection? You can write, you can have a diary, or some of you prefer a video reflection, some of you prefer a picture reflection, up to you. But I give you a choice, because different learners has different preference. Some are very pictorial, some very visual, etc. So at least we give them some choice within the control, not that you can do whatever you want. All right? You go to the classroom, you're very interested in the assessment. Okay, there are 4 different ways. Okay, one is literature review. Would you like to work in group of 2 or 3? Well, sometimes you can negotiate. If the class is too big, maybe group of 3. If the class is too small, I mean a group of 2. But of course, you can dictate whether you want to have a group of 2 or 3 or 4, but why not give them a chance to decide? It's more like student-centered way of deciding what to do in the classroom, so that they feel that, oh, wow, I'm given a choice to decide. And eventually, we take consensus. And just a quick example. Then usefulness. Why do I want to study this? Okay, like I mentioned, student in education, why do they have to study statistics? So we have to make sure that whatever knowledge they're going to get from the class is useful, the content is relevant, and they value the subject matter, especially if you can relate to the future life. We've done a recent study about student engagement in higher education. Our study mentioned that students really prefer lecturers that have industry experience. When we ask them, what are the 3, if you can list on 3 wonderful things about your learning experience on campus. So they were saying lecturer from industry, because they can relate to real life. They really appreciate that. So meaning that the lecturer are able to translate the content into real life application. So you increase the value. You increase the value, inshallah, they will be interested in the subject matter. And then, well, I think I can do it. How many of our students coming to our class? Oh my God, I'm not sure whether a B is good enough. So we must empower them to believe that they can do it. They can succeed with effort. It's a competent perception is very important, because this is something that regulates their behavior at the same time. Some students, if you think that the course is too difficult, they will put less effort. They will say, oh, okay, this is good enough. I don't expect to get A's. But if they're really interested in the subject matter, and you prove to them that with effort, they can move further, I think they can do beyond your expectation. Like for instance, in my case, when I teach statistics, I like to use a quiz, sometimes grading, sometimes non-grading. Every week I have like between 3 to 5 multiple choice at the beginning and at the end, just to monitor the understanding. Just a quick one, applied question about whether they understand the concept of, like I mentioned just now, standard deviation, variation, covariation. So I did MCQ, a quick one in the classroom. And then immediately after that, they will exchange and they will discuss what went wrong. So there is when I can sort of correct the misconception of this one. So immediately they get the feedback and I improve. And next week, maybe I repeat the same question, maybe just to enhance their understanding and to build the confidence. And this time they got it right. Of course, they're happy. Oh, finally, Prof, I got it. Okay, those are the kind of feeling I can do it that we need to build in our students. Next is interest. I mentioned this already. Do I like it? Now, after all your effort, empower, usefulness, and successful experience, I think they will be interested. Whether they will be interested, situational interest, temporarily, just with you, but if they take the course with different lecturer, they may not be interested anymore. Perhaps, we don't know. That is a test of situational or individual interest, right? And finally, we believe in caring. Social presence in COI, community of inquiry, Prof. Karim keep mentioning the COI. Social presence is important. The same thing if face-to-face, relatedness. Believe the instructor care, that we care about them to meet the course learning outcomes. It's also very important. It's not simply about grades, it's about achieving our aim for the course learning outcome. That is also equally important. So overall, actually, the music model covers about 7 motivational theories that says the same thing, but different ways of saying things. So if you want to ensure students are engaged, make sure they have music. You have demonstrated that the music in you is transparent, is sort of translated into action in the classroom, your student. So with that, Prof. Karim, maybe I stop here. I don't monitor time. How long have? Oh my God, 1 hour.
Yeah,
that's a bit Okay, I welcome question and answer if you have anything. Thank you.
I think that's just nice. Okay, maybe Prof, you can, if you want to stop.
Okay, stop sharing. Let me see.
Yeah, screen sharing.
Okay.
All
okay,
right.
You let me talk. That's difficult. That is the difficult part. I thought I was awkward talking to the machine now. I may got addicted later on.
Right. I think that's wonderful. There's a lot of conversation, interaction in the chat box. And I have actually picked up some of the points.
Yeah.
So I don't know whether you want to go through, maybe there are too many there. So maybe I will share my screen.
Maybe you can share a bit.
Yeah, I will share my screen. I pick up some points. All right, so maybe, yeah, Prof, we can.
Okay, a simple question. What are simple steps for novice lecturers to begin empowering their students? Simple steps. I think being young is an advantage. I was younger once. Being young, you can relate with them. They feel they're part of you. They're part of you. They feel they can relate. You share the same jokes, the same language, perhaps. That is important. And I think also sharing, they admire you actually. Young lecturers, even old lecturers like us, a student tend to admire our journey actually. We can share your journey, how you overcome some difficulties. I think that can empower them. I taught a course, what we call it, postgraduate diploma in higher education, learning and teaching. a course mandated to all new lecturers in UUM. And I read many of their life experience journey during undergraduate. So I can see how almost all of them overcome struggles during the undergrad or during their lifetime. So I think sharing this struggle can inspire people actually. So the rest, simple step, I think, love your subject matter and translate that subject matter to them in a more meaningful way. You cannot detach your marry with your content actually, because I have my student, my neighbor actually told me, oh, my lecturer simply come and that's it, come to class and teach and leave. Not my neighbor here, my people know who's my neighbor, not my neighbor, my friends. Okay, they come and teach and that's it. So what do you mean? I asked her, I mean the student, actually the student, I asked the student, my undergraduate. Well, he seldom talk to us, meaning that there's no connection. So there's no connection between you and the student, lack of interaction, because research has shown that interaction, student-faculty interaction is the most powerful actually, the most powerful among the most powerful tools to enhance students' motivation and engagement. So you can talk to them, inspire them, and start with a small step. Like I mentioned just now, maybe I don't have to repeat, right? Like the sharing I mentioned, how to play the music with them. Those are among new things that I can advise to young lecturer. Learning is not done.
Prof. Rosana, I would like to add a little bit there. In terms of empowering students, I mean, for the novice lecturers. Because I remember when I first joined USN, one of the things my senior colleague told me, he basically, I regard him as a mentor. He said, Karim, whatever subject that you take, the first subject, get it right, you know, and have the mastery of the subject. You know, you must become very well versed with the subject so that you can show your confidence in the class. And another thing is the caring part. I think the empathy and the caring part is very important. So I taught actually a lab class. So at that time it was like from 11 a.m. until 5 p.m. So it's about what, 5 hours. Yeah. So I spent the whole time in the lab. You know, I went from group to group, talk to each student, you know, show them the technique, everything. So that kind of interaction, feedback, conversation that happened during that 5 hours, that really, you know, set kind of the mindset of the student and also the lecturers in terms of the best kind of learning environment that, you know, both of us want to have. So, and that to me, where the engagement comes in now. So they're just sharing my experience. Respect.
Yes, of course, Prof. If you don't have the knowledge about the subject matter, how can you translate the passion? Passion comes instantaneously because you know that you love doing what you're doing. I think sometimes becoming a lecturer is not by something. It's not by design. For some people, just like, well, that's the best option right now. But I think once they're into the profession, they must try to love the subject matter first. Then only they can translate the energy, fire to the student. Okay, the second one, learning is not done to you, it's something you choose to do. Is it a question or sharing?
I think that's just a kind of sharing
I agree.
statement.
Yeah, it's something you choose to do.
This time from Dr. Sharifah, I think, Sharifah Zaina.
Exactly, because we need, that's why we notice that our students coming to our class, sometimes not by design, not by choice, because that's the program that they ask for engineering, they got economics, for instance. So that's why we need, as an economic lecturer, for instance, you go to the class, so you have to really grill that economics is important, economics is exciting, because they may not be excited at all. That's why you need to empower them to be interested first, and then that is something they choose to do. Meaning that from externally driven until intrinsically driven, that I love the subject matter now. If I can share with you, Prof. Karim, whenever I go to talk to school children, even last year I went to one MRSM in Perlis, in Kedah actually. Okay, after my talk, when I was about to leave, a couple of them come, I want to become a psychologist, bro. So meaning that I can convert. If you go to give any lecture about economics, about your subject matter, you can convert people to become like you, to love what you are doing.
Yeah.
So that is when you go to the class, you want to do that. You convert, you arouse the curiosity, the interest to know more about the subject matter. How, I don't know, there's so many ways, because different students have different, need different, what do you call it, stimulus. So, well, another one.
It can be tiring as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
Want to make concern about student take my teaching concern academic. The answer to this question is easy to monitor via face-to-face. This is why some. I think Prof. Karim has the better answer for number 3. I know there are lots of tools. I told you, I have attended 15, 16 online training during my MCO. I know lots of tools that you can use, whether you are comfortable to use it, whether students have access to the bandwidth to be able to engage in that interaction. I think we can do it now with technology. Again, growth mindset. The fixed mindset always say, oh my God, I cannot do it. But growth mindset, I shall learn.
Yeah.
I shall determine to learn. This is just repeating,
Yeah,
the last one
just,
repeating.
Just a comment, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, in fact, the role of emotion is often neglected. I think when I go to class, the emotion must be fired up first. Get them interested in what you are doing. Every lecturer must deliver content, sensual, emotionally. I agree. Emotionally, thoughtfully, smiling. True. Even
easier said, he said.
easier said, yeah. But where some people took the trouble, I know I attended one session from one physics professor in Malaya, I think. I cannot remember, one professor from Malaya in a conference.
Professor Haris?
No,
no,
just a regular professor.
Oh,
But
okay.
the way he approached the class, he asked students to do a theater, assuming a role. You are Einstein, you are this, you are that. Okay, what would you say? If you are Einstein, how would you say? You dress up, they come to the class and say, Einstein with the, with the emotion, with the persona. You take the persona of the mathematician or physician. So that is create sort of interest in the subject matter. Just like I mentioned just now, there is a feud in academia between Pearson and Spearman when they developed the correlation. So how many students know about it? So if you go and tell them why Spearman disagree with Pearson about the ranking, etc., that might arouse the curiosity. But yes, it takes a lot of effort, it takes a lot of reading. Next one, I think undergraduate can be deep learners, but haven't been guided as much. Most are chasing grades. Yeah, that's why we need to, I know it's pretty challenging, but I'm not saying chasing grades is wrong, because that is also important for the future. But having only chasing for grades is dangerous. We need to gradually balance between grades and interest and becoming a good, taking up a persona in the field. If I'm going to teach a future teacher, I should be able to guide them to develop a persona as a teacher. When they walk, I can say, this is a future teacher. The same thing with a lawyer. If I'm a lecturer from the law department, you can tell. You should be able to tell the way they talk, the way they walk. These are lawyers to a certain extent. So that is embracing the persona of the field. And if you can do that, inshallah, grades will come simultaneously. Interest will help them to understand better, becoming deep learner. How interest, not how to craft hot learning to bring the student into deep learning. Oh yeah, true. I just want to share with you, there has been also a lot of debates in cognitive sciences between neuroscientists, cognitive scientists, and social constructivists in the literature, because people thought that, well, we don't have to teach anymore. But if you go back, well, different school of thoughts. I believe in guided inquiry. I believe in Socratic approach. That's why when I teach, I ask a lot of questions, right? Because we need to guide them, what we call it, guided inquiry. But cognitive, if you ask cognitive scientists, they would say that teaching the fundamental is very important. Establishing fundamental is very important before we go to application. Because of course, I'm also a proponent of PBL, but I also create what we call teachable moment, right? When they are ready, just in time teaching, some people call it, right? So teaching is still, because they want to listen to the horse's mouth, actually, students think, look at us as expert. And I know some lecturers like to ask students to do lots of presentation, no teaching, all class presentation, oh, student-centered. But sometimes students are saying, I'm listening to rubbish. Sorry, I use that word, student. I don't understand what they are saying, and they are saying the wrong thing. So that I mean, something that we have to be careful, because some lecturers did not wrap up at the end. There's no, what they call it, debriefing at the end of the session to correct the misconception, because some presentation may have presented false information or incorrect information. So that is a challenge for us, actually, bridging between teacher-centered, student-centered, COT, and whatever, right? Anything else?
Yeah,
Prof?
Professor, I think that the second bullet point here, I think the NCA, our Peti Malanda Chancellor Dato Farhan, also has similar question. He said, students' insistence on getting credit for learning, how do we empower them? I think this actually is a common question, especially for the novice lecturers, especially. But even the experienced one, including myself, I sometimes get a batch of students, despite your best effort, they just seems not to be very responsive.
They are very strategic, right? They're very strategic learner.
So maybe, I don't know, what else can you say about that? That how do we change their mindset rather than focusing on just a grade, but what matters is the learning. So
I know there's one no one answer that can really can really answer that. But what I can say, normally assessment drives learning, right? Assessment drives student behavior. So to me, my question is that go back to our assessment, look at our assessment format, because our assessment will drive the way they learned. The same thing with the lecturers today. How are we promoted? Age index, KPIs, number of research, that's how we behave. Because we've been controlled. That is very extrinsically driven, actually. Because our life is normally being controlled. We let ourselves being controlled for many of us. I don't know, maybe for people like us approaching retirement age, we don't care anymore. So long we do work, but eventually it fulfill the KPI. But for most people, to them, they are reaching the KPI. KPI says 3 scopers, they will go for 7. Because it's not the meaning of the research anymore, it's the numbers that count. So we have to go back, the same thing in the classroom. How do you assess? What do you assess? Because that assessment will drive learning. That is my best answer. The best I can say, maybe our assessment is too assessment driven, not inquiry driven, not curiosity driven. Because today we are going for divergent answers, right? Essay form, application, like PBL, case study. All this requires, there's no one correct answer. It's always about presenting a defensible argument. That's what we are training our students today. Be able to defend your argument, be it right or wrong, so long you defend.
So maybe,
I'm not sure.
you talk about assessment, Prof. Maybe we need to have more like multiple low-stake assessment rather than high-stake assessment, maybe.
Well, actually, MCQ is a good tool. Actually, my experience as a PhD student, our midterm and final exam, 100 MCQ items, 100 question MCQ, open book. There's no direct, there's no straightforward. I cannot open my book. There's no point. There's no answer from the textbook. But to make things better for the student, okay, take as long as you want. 3 hours normally lecture, right? 3 hours, I can wait. If you need 5 hours, it's okay. 100 questions. Even measurement class, I took measurement statistics, 100 question, multiple choice, because they want to ensure the breadth, okay, and the depth. But through good MCQ, you can capture. And if you want to discriminate between the poor, the average, and the best, MCQ is the best too. I don't know. That's from my experience, from my reading. But of course,
yeah, I agree with you, Prof. Rosna. I agree.
Yeah.
Totally, yeah. Okay, on this slide, the first point there, the keyword empathy. I think this from Dr. Atika Jaffrey. She has been mentioning a few times about empathy. So maybe you want to say more about this, Prof?
Empathy answers the question, why should I not interested? Yeah, meaning that empathy is sharing similarity. Like I'm sharing with my students. I used to be like you. I'm so afraid of computer. I'm so afraid of numbers. So I don't know, but I learned. I remember one textbook. I told my student, I learned this chapter, chapter 17, multiple regression. I read 3 times before I go to class. I don't understand. I don't understand the language, but you have to do it. So empathy meaning that I feel you, right?
Yeah.
I feel you. So you need to tell them, I know what you have undergone. I've gone that stage before. You think it's easy to become what I am today? Tell your student. No, without hard work. I slept. I woke up at 3 and kicked my PC because my syntax file have extra dot. It doesn't run for 3 hours. So that is a good learning experience. I told my student, you have to undergo that no pain, no gain exercise. I told my student. So I don't know. Tell our pain to them. Share our pain.
Been there, done that, right?
Because they thought we are genius. We are not. We are just average people. I'm just average student. But we work hard. We work hard. You have to share with students. We work hard to get where we are today.
Me too. Me too. Okay, empathy. That's why I always tell the young lecturers in our program, I always repeat, empathy, empathy, empathy. So that has to be a critical point or critical thing as part of our learning design. And the way, maybe you didn't mention about also the another aspect, social emotional learning, which also there's an element of empathy there. So I think it's a very important putting ourselves in the students' position.
Exactly.
Yeah. Otherwise, we tend to forget. I think we tend to forget when we become a professor. We put ourselves so high. We are not able to bring ourselves down to the students' level. We forget the time when we were once a student struggling.
You know what, Prof? If you read the literature in cognitive psychology, they were saying that the problem with expert learner like us, expert in our field, you don't know how to sort of dissect the information step by step. You go straight to the point. You forgot. That's because you are very advanced. And the research between novice and expert, they were saying that the problem with expert, they cannot articulate their thoughts. They know, but they cannot articulate because they know it.
I will add to that. The problem with experts, they have many blind sides, So
blind spot.
The blind spot, the blind side as well. So I think we have to be very careful there. We tend to forget.
Sometimes I try to remind myself too. Sabar.
Okay, Prof. Maybe we have another set of questions here. Maybe statement.
Of course, as we talk about teachers' passion, students have their own too. The number question 1, literature also mentioned that try to build the classroom scenario or learning experience based on students' interest. So there are ways to find student interest. Maybe Prof. Karim through Padlet, whatever, you can ask about this and that. What do you know about this? You can sort of gauge the interest. And from that point onwards, if you know that they love music, bring in music. They love rock and roll. Okay, relate with them. I'm a rock fan too, mentioned. So, they like to be like them. You like us like you. Okay, and this is a thing, I think.
Yeah, I I like to see this also from another perspective.
Mm-hmm.
We say that learning is messy, and learning is not linear. Learning is about connecting the dots.
Yeah.
But then I think before connecting the dots can happen, it's about connecting emotionally with our students. How do we connect with the students?
Yeah.
Because as long if the connection does not happen, then regardless of what theory, what model, music, or regardless that you want to use or to apply, nothing much can happen. So that connection emotionally should happen first.
I
That's
completely
my,
agree, Prof. I completely agree. That's why if you look at the music model, it encompasses everything from the cognitive to social emotional, everything grouped together, a complete set. Of course, students don't like everything that we do or they do, but at least what we can do is to create what we call situational interest. They're interested to study with us, not with other lecturer. They hate psychology, but with me, they like it, for instance. That's why the importance of having situational interest, a very temporary, maybe for 1 semester. After our course, okay, I'm not going to take stat anymore. I agree. We cannot expect students to learn, but you have to have that high expectation. I put high expectation. When you come to my class, I promise you, you will love statistics after this.
That's a challenge. Yeah, I think after 26 years teaching in USM and some experience teaching in the private school as well before that, I still guilty of putting myself sometimes too high and fail to bring myself to the level of the student. So I admit that I'm still doing it sometimes from time to time because I tend to forget. So I think
there's a problem with expert. There's a problem. It's not you, everyone. It's everyone.
Right, Prof. I think there's a very good. There are many more comments and questions here, but maybe we can pick up those towards the end there. Maybe 1 or 2 more. If you can pick any comment or question that you like to address.
I'm trying to scroll, but I cannot see much.
There's a question from Shiraz. Okay. What is the best percentage of blended learning and face-to-face in order to achieve maximum learning results?
Well, life is not statistics. Life is not mathematics. You cannot. To me, the answer is always it depends. Maybe Prof. Karim has a better answer. My answer is it depends on the context, it depends on the learner, it depends on the subject. Everything it depends. When it comes to ERT, well, remote learning is the answer. But without ERT, I believe, without this pandemic, I think we should have a pretty balance between face-to-face, because a teacher is also a murabbi who can touch the heart of the student by seeing face-to-face, talking, creating the bond. That is also equally important. Yeah, we are the role model actually. The way we speak, the way we walk, the way we think will be emulated by our students.
Okay, there's a comment here from Rose Lina Ismail here.
My friend.
Okay.
My friend from Texas. Oh my God, they are here.
The cowboy, yeah?
Yeah.
At 11:26, whatever that is being presented today is actually applicable in management, I think. Coaching and mentoring. So, coaching and mentoring, Prof. Can you comment on that and how that can really play a role in empowering the students?
I don't differentiate between these two because I'm not a researcher in coaching or mentoring. To me, modeling is very important. Modeling, whether in the classroom, whether us as the lecturer as a role model or peer modeling is equally important. So the best way, I sometimes use students, about weak students who manage to overcome some conceptual understanding, and I would demonstrate, I would use the person as a role model. She can do it. If she can do it, you can do it. She was struggling right from the beginning, and now she can overcome. I think role modeling, and you yourself also being a role model. If you are the head of the department, I think you are the first to come to office, right? You are the last to leave office. I don't know. Some people had different opinion, but when I was a dean, I was the first to open the gate, the door to the office, and I was always the last to leave the office. Well, just because I love working in my office, for instance, but at the same time, I think, well, I don't know whether it's bad or good role model, but for the young ones, I think they might be, because I also was inspired by my role model. My deputy dean, my former deputy dean, my good friend. He returned to office in the evening. So when I first joined UUM in Tanah Merah, Jitra, so I had a very dynamic deputy dean, my friend Asma Abdul Hamid. I have to mention, credit to her. She was my mentor, a good mentor. I noticed she went to office at night. So I thought, wow, working does not stop after 5. Then I start working at night.
Well, Prof, I think it's been
we have come to the end, huh?
Yeah, we're coming to the end now because it's already 11:30, 1.5 hour. And I don't want to...
Thank you very much, Prof. Karim, for this invitation. Thank you very much to my friends, my colleague out there. I imagine you're in front of me. Thank you for the comments, for the question, for the support. My inaugural FB Live, hopefully it's not disappointing.
It's YouTube, Prof, not FB.
YouTube, YouTube, okay.
Maybe next time I will stream live to both YouTube and Facebook at the same time.
Okay.
But I need to upgrade the application that I'm using now. But I think this has been a very, very fruitful session this morning. A lot of things that we have learned. Every time and I participate in any webinar and I actively involved in giving feedback, sharing, and so on, I learn a lot. Because there's always a new ideas, new perspective, new quotes sometimes. So learning never stop for for people in the academic.
And I learned a lot from you too, Prof.
We learn from each other. we learn from each other, Prof. So for those who are interested to get the PowerPoint, you can see on the screen now the link to download. But don't worry, this link also will be given in the description below the video. So as final remarks, I'd like to thank Prof. Dr. Rosna Awang Hashim, our speaker this morning, for a very fruitful, a very insightful sharing this morning on the topic of empowering what was the topic? Empowering
learner empowerment.
Learner empowerment. And for those who join in halfway, again, I want to share the book here. Okay, just take a picture of the slide here. Oh, I'll be sharing the slide, or this slide also. I will give the link to download the slides in the link together with Prof. Rosna's slide. But once again, these 3 books here, I have all these 3 books. Of course, I have not read all the books, but I have read this book, How to Make an Attention-Grabbing E-Learning Course, from cover to cover. 20+ ideas for grabbing learners' attention. 20+. You don't need that many. Just take 5, and you will be okay. But if you are very ambitious, if you really want to be the unpredictable, great teachers are unpredictable. That's my own words, you know.
True.
Check this book. Check out this book by Curtis Bong, Adding Some Tech Varieties, 100+ activities for motivating and retaining learners online. These 2 books you can download free. Just Google the title and you will be able to download the full PDF to your computer, and you can study. So finally, thank you to all the participants here for being a very active participants. And hopefully I will bring you more interesting topics next week. Maybe also a short workshop. So I will announce on the Facebook. And I would like to invite all of you also to join our Facebook group, Aspiring Young Academics, Facebook group, because I will put all the announcement there. So thank you very much. Selamat berpuasa. Selamat hari.
Happy Labor Day.
Happy Labor Day. Hari buruh. Happy Labor Day. So thank you, and And lupa. Okay. Ini the final screen to see the speakers here. So maybe we can just wave to the.
Okay, thank you everybody. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. So let me stop the.
Thank you, Prof. Karim. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Prof. Rosna. So I will end the YouTube stream now.